All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the second video of the Phase by Phase Ranger School series. This video is going to be all about Darby Phase at Ranger School. And if you haven't seen my first video of this series, which was all about Rap Week, I highly suggest that you do that before watching this video. And I'll put a card up that will appear right now, like right here, I think, maybe on the other side, but it's up here somewhere. That will take you to the Rap Week video that I'm talking about, and I'll also leave a link to it at the end of this video so that you'll definitely have that available to you. Again, highly suggest you go watch that first before moving on with this one. Okay, so again, this video is going to be all about Darby Phase. I'm going to give you not exactly a day-by-day schedule of it, because Darby Phase, you know, tends to the day-by-day schedule isn't going to be exactly the same every time, just because it all depends on class size, what time of the year the course is going on, what the weather's like that day. A lot of things are gonna determine a day-by-day schedule, but I am going to give you a good breakdown on what to expect, and then I'll also give you some tips that are gonna help set you up for success when you find yourself going through Darby Phase. All right, first things first, I am actually a Darby Phase recycle, so I have twice the experience of what it's like to go through Darby Phase. And that being said, both those Darby Phases that I went through, they were like night and day, man. They were like completely different. I mean, the main period of instruction and like what was expected out of you, you know, and Ranger School isms that happened during Darby School were the same, but my attitude was different, my team was different, and even the schedule and the way we conducted operations were actually a little different. And I'll get into that, and I'll also shed some light on how you can avoid recycling Darby Phase later on in this video. But first things first, let's talk about the very beginning of Darby Phase. So you're gonna arrive at Darby Phase right after Rap Week, which is at Camp Darby, which is some miles southeast-ish of Fort Benning, where you conduct Rap Week. Okay, so it's at a different camp than where you are during Rap Week. Like I said in my last video, nowadays you can expect to actually ruck almost all the way out to Camp Darby. Now, once you get to Darby Phase, the first real like gate that you're gonna go through is the notorious Darby Queen. And that obstacle course is no joke. Now, before I've talked about Malvesti and how it's not that bad, it's just something you sort of got to get through. They kind of just mess with you, they hose you down, they're smoking you during Malvesti. At Darby Queen, like, this obstacle course really is just a straight up smoke fest, and the obstacles are actually kind of hard. My advice is that if you are at Fort Benning, try your best to go out there to Camp Darby, find it on the map. You can actually look it up like on Google Maps, Camp Darby. Go out there and see if the instructors will let you run through the obstacle course. I don't know what the chances of them actually saying yes are, but I can tell you when I was training for Best Ranger, I went out there with my teammate just to try to get a rep in because we knew we were going to be doing it for the Best Ranger competition. And they were like, yeah, sure, no problem, we're not using it. And they let us go through it. So, I mean, who knows? They might actually just let you go get some practice. I don't know. But if not, then I would highly advise that you go find like a local obstacle course on your base or around your school or wherever, if you have that available to you, and just run as many reps on all the obstacles that you possibly can. Obviously, I know that the obstacle courses that the Army has are not the Darby Queen obstacle course. There's only one Darby Queen. But the more familiar you get with maneuvering through those tough obstacles, you know, getting over that fear of heights, getting hands on ropes, and getting familiar with those sorts of complex movements, the easier it's going to be and the more ready you're going to be once you get to the Darby Queen. Okay, so start doing obstacle courses, do them as much as you can. That's the best you can do to get ready for that. You're also going to need to make sure that you're training endurance, which is just, that goes along with Ranger School physical training as a whole. Don't be just going to the gym getting big. You need to be training endurance. You need to be doing, you know, 12 or more reps on certain exercises. You need to be doing long runs, long rucks. You need to be doing like HIIT workouts and, you know, hybrid training, CrossFit workouts, those sorts of things to really get yourself ready for something like the Darby Queen. You're doing obstacles back to back, hard obstacles And in between the obstacles, you know, they're having you do things like bear crawls, burpees, push-ups, worms, all like those exercises that you just hate because they're just hard. They're going to be making you do it, okay? Now, as far as getting through the Darby Queen, you don't have to pass every single obstacle, even though I would advise that you know, put 110% effort into trying to do that. But just know that they give you these things called major and minor minuses. I don't remember exactly which obstacles are counted as major and which obstacles are counted as minor, but if I remember correctly, you are allowed to miss 2 minor obstacles, but I don't think you can miss any major obstacles. But keep in mind that those minor minuses go towards your ranger school grade as a whole. You can only get so many minor minuses during each phase, or you're going to recycle that phase. And I can't remember exactly, I'm sorry, but I want to say it's like 3 minor minuses and you're recycling, or you're just kicked. It's one or the other. But so the Darby Queen, that's going to be your first event. I think I hit that one up enough. You just got to go in there. They're going to have you go through as buddy teams, and you just got to psych up your buddy and just hit it as hard as you can. And just do your best, man, and get through it. You should be okay. If you made it through Rap Week, you should be okay getting through Darby Queen, okay? Just get your mind right that you got to be motivated that day. And once you finish the Darby Queen, I believe that's like day 1, you'll actually start receiving your periods of instruction, like your how to conduct squad patrols. You'll get some more land nav instruction, you'll get some TLPs and op-board instruction, and they will be in classroom style setting. Although you won't be in a classroom, you'll be in some bleachers outside, but you'll be receiving them from a ranger instructor, an RI, and he'll be using a whiteboard just to kind of go through the periods of instruction and teach you everything you need to know about patrolling, TLPs and op order. So before you go to ranger school, I wouldn't stress too much on studying all that stuff. I would just, you know, get your mind right, clear your mind from what you think you know about patrolling before you get to ranger school, and just really buckle down and pay attention to those blocks of instruction when you're receiving them at ranger school, because that's what they're going to test you on. And the ranger school standards are different than like typical infantry squad tactics that you would see in a line unit. And for you IBullet guys, it's different than what you learn in IBullet, okay? So you're gonna have to erase some of that stuff and fill it with new stuff, okay? So don't try to cram before ranger school academically. You really just need to focus on the physical stuff. Now, there's no barracks period at Darby Phase. You end up sleeping in between some Connexes, which is gonna store all your extra gear that you don't use during patrolling. And it's gonna be on rocks. Okay, so but they'll let you use like your sleeping pad, and they'll let you use your sleeping bag whenever you do get to sleep, which isn't very often, so that you can lay out on those rocks and you just all cram together, and that's where you lay your head down at night when you're not in a patrol base, okay? So every night out at Darby Phase is outside, so just be prepared for that. There are no barracks. There's also never a time that you go to a chow hall. At least I can't remember that. I don't think there's ever, yeah, there's like no chow hall at Darby. It's just MREs for the entire time you're there. And you should be getting 2 MREs a day. But yeah, so for like the first few days or so, maybe upwards to like 5 days, it's all dedicated to completing the Darby Queen and receiving those blocks of instruction. You'll get your classroom instruction. You'll go out and do practical exercises on the large fields that they have out there. And they're really going to make sure that you're good to go and that you have a good understanding on what's expected of you before you go out and conduct graded patrols. Now, since I had gone through Darby Phase twice, I'll give you a little advice, okay? This is really the first time that you're going to be put into your squad, and you guys really need to come together immediately and start treating Ranger School as a team event as a whole, okay? There's gonna be a lot of times that they're gonna give you your blocks of instruction and they're gonna say, okay, now go practice it, all right? And it's up to your team and each of you as individuals to actually go out and practice and get it right. The RIs are there's gonna be times when they're gonna let you just decide your own fate, whether you wanna do it right or you don't. Make sure that you and your team are taking everything seriously and you're actually putting in the work, practicing as much as you possibly can, because you're gonna need it. Don't be taking breaks for no reason. You need to take those PEs seriously. And if you know, if there's no one person that's taking the lead of that type of thing, then be the one that takes lead. You don't need to be like the hard charger, like, come on guys, motherfuckers, let's fucking go. You know, you don't want to be the guy that's like forcing himself into leadership, but take advantage of the opportunity. If nobody steps up, you know, then be the one to do it. And I guess what I'm really trying to say is somebody's got to step up, whether you guys rotate leadership at first or not. Somebody's got to take charge of that, or it's just going to turn into a gaggle and like you guys aren't really going to learn anything. Once all that's done and you've received all your periods of instruction and you've done your PEs and you're like ready to go put this shit to work, you're gonna wake up one day and receive your first mission. And I want to say you wake up super early that day. It's like 3 or 4 in the morning, something like that. It's definitely still dark. And you're gonna move over to where you conduct TLPs, which is like every squad has their own little like TLP opward shack, all right, that's assigned to them. You'll move over there with all your gear and your packing list, okay? Now, real quick before I forget, the packing list for every mission has to be right. You can get through the entire opward process, brief your opwards, conduct everything TLPs wise, and the last thing the RI is going to test you on is packing list layout. And if there's one item missing from anybody's packing list, that person is getting a no-go. Okay, so make sure packing list is right. Make sure your team, I'm turning around here because apparently I can't go that way. Make sure your team takes the packing list seriously before they even step off from that sleeping area and move to the shacks. They need to have everything that they're supposed to have, okay? It's very, very high priority. But so you'll move to those shacks and you'll conduct TLPs and you'll get together your op board. And this is gonna be a group event. Now there will be leadership positions during the op order process. Somebody's gonna be squad leader, there's gonna be 2 team leaders. It's ultimately up to the leaders to get their goes or no-goes and make sure that everything runs smoothly and to standard, okay? But the op-board process is a team event. The squad leader is not just the only one stuck doing everything op-board. You just wouldn't get it all done if you were trying to do the entire op order yourself, okay? It's a lot of stuff. So you really need to utilize your time management skills, lean on your team and figure out your teammates' personalities and see who is good at what. Okay, if you know somebody's good at land nav and like orienting, then they might want to be the one that you put in charge of figuring out the infill and exfil route for the mission, you know? If you know of somebody that just seems to be squared away on time, like all the time, always where he's supposed to be, then put that person in charge of the timeline. And you get the idea, so on and so forth, okay, stuff like that. So really figure out your teammates. You guys need to come together as like a family and figure out what each other's strengths are so that you can bang out these op orders, no problem, okay? Going back to the packing list layout, definitely make sure that you put somebody that is very good with attention to detail at actually going through everybody's rucks and making sure that everything is in those rucks. Just put somebody in charge of that. Say, hey, that you're checking the layout for this op order, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to go around and check everybody's ruck. That's a good TTP to have at Ranger School, especially for Darby Phase. So you'll get like some hours to do your op order, but like you really do need every minute of that time, every second of that time even. So don't be slacking off. Make sure you really utilize good time management and don't like rush through anything because everything has to be right, but don't be just like willy-nilly taking your time on anything either, okay? It has to be straight 110% focus on everything that op orders are supposed to be. And use your Ranger handbook. Open up your Ranger handbook and start with situation number 1 and go all the way down and just do it step by step by step. And that's how you're going to brief it too. All right, you can use your Ranger handbook. They're going to encourage you to have your Ranger handbook on you at all times and to use it. You know, you can take it out during op orders. You can use it. You can use it when you're briefing. That's what I did, and I went really well with op orders. I had no problem. That's just because I opened up we planned it according to the book, and I briefed it according to the book. And I just literally had my book, and I made sure I understand everything in the mission, and I just use each step in the book to brief. And I always did pretty good on op boards. Okay, so once op boards are complete, you know, and you do your layout and you've got your go so far, they're either going to switch out leadership right then and there before you start the mission, or they're going to continue on with the current leadership and have you initiate your movement and get like at least halfway to the objective, something like that. And the reason for that is because they want to make sure you're actually doing your PCCs and PCIs. They want to see that you're, before you step off that little 5 to 15 minute gap in between op boards and actually starting your mission, that you're actually lining everybody up just like you're supposed to do at your unit as a soldier. I know it doesn't always happen, but that's what you're supposed to do. Line everybody up, check to make sure everybody's got all the appropriate gear, they got their water, they got their PPE, and you're gonna check every person, okay? And you can assign that to a team leader, you can assign it to both team leaders, but as the squad leader, you have to make sure it gets done, because more than likely the RI's gonna spot check, and if he finds something wrong, guess what? No go. Just wasted all your time. So again, take PCCs and PCIs extremely seriously. Make sure everybody's got all their stuff. Make sure the radio frequencies are set, do your radio checks, all that good stuff. You have to actually do it, okay? It's not a check the box moment. Whew. Oh, it's hot, guys, it's hot. You guys better like and subscribe, because I'm definitely putting in the work and dropping some good knowledge here for you guys, all right? So make sure you like and subscribe for this. Okay. Anyway, so okay, so you're gonna step off on your mission, and there's two types of missions that you're gonna be doing in Darby Phase, and really for like the majority of Ranger School, and that's either a raid or an ambush, okay? So you're gonna conduct your movements. The movements range from anywhere from like, you know, a couple miles to like 10 miles, if I remember right, okay? It just depends on the day, and it just depends on the moment, all right? I can't really dial that down for you any more than that. But you'll conduct your movement very tactically, and you're gonna, again, do it by the book. You're gonna make sure that you're moving in the appropriate formation with the appropriate movement techniques. You're gonna be constantly checking on your guys to make sure that their heads are on a swivel, they're pulling security, they're not just feeling bad for themselves and just trucking along, you know. Take everything seriously as if it were a real life scenario. And that is the best advice I can give you for Ranger School in general. So going back to how I had to recycle Darby Phase, I recycled because, and I'll be honest and completely transparent, I didn't take patrols seriously enough, okay? I'd already been through a lot of shit in the Army before I finally made my way down to Ranger School. I've been through a lot of schools, a lot of training, and I was like, okay, they just want to kind of see that you know what you're doing. They're going to check the box and we're going to move on. Wrong answer, okay? Didn't work for me, won't work for you. You got to take it extremely seriously. They'll see right through that. If you're not taking things seriously, they're gonna see through it, and they're gonna find a reason to fail you, okay? And that's what happened to me. I was mad at the time because I went through the entirety of Darby Phase, got my second look on, like, I failed my first look, and then I got my second look on like the last day and found out that I failed. You know, I was a no-go for patrols at the end of Darby, and I was pissed, you know? And during recycle, I had a whole week to think about it back at Fort Benning, to just sit there, think about what I did wrong, and I came to terms with it and realized my wrongs, and I fixed myself, you know, for the next Darby Phase. And actually, recycling is not such a bad thing, man. I mean, I wouldn't go to Ranger School thinking that you're not going to recycle. Like, I definitely wouldn't do that to yourself. If more than likely you're going to recycle at some point during Ranger School, and that's okay. That's just another test of working your way through failure, okay? You're not going to be perfect at everything. You know, they even the RIs like saw that I was personally pissed, and I think because I was like an older dude, they just kind of like leveled with me a little bit, you know. And at one point they're like, hey man, you know, it's cool, you know, you're not a real Ranger unless you recycle. And I took that with me. I took that to heart, that an RI like pulled me aside and took the time out of his day and, you know, took his RI face off for a second and just leveled with me and said, you know, it's okay that you failed. Now it's the time to pick yourself up from failure and continue on. You know, learn from your mistakes, fix them, and let's get this done. So it's okay if you fail. but you don't want, you still don't want to if you can help it, right? Okay, so anyway, so that's a little lesson learned, inject there. But yeah, so you'll do your patrols. Again, you have to, when you're in leadership position, make sure that you're doing everything by the book. Take out the Ranger handbook when it's time to set up your ORP, you know, when it's time to do your GOTWA, all these things that they're really buckling down and checking you on. Open up the book and do it right, okay? It's okay. Take out your notes and make sure you're doing it. You can read it off the fucking book. They're not gonna be offended by that. It's a good thing. Now, during these times when you're pulling security, everybody's gonna start getting really tired. You're gonna be going through some pretty gnarly terrain. There's a lot of rolling hill style terrain. And so guys are gonna be really tired, you know, just starting off with day one, and you're already going to be really smoked just from going through Rap Week and Darby Queen and all that stuff. So you really got to look after each other, make sure everybody's doing well. If anybody starts nodding off during security, tap them. You don't got to be super pissed, but just tap them, say, hey man, wake, you know, wake up. I gotta get my go, you know what I'm saying? And do your best with whatever mission set that you were given as a leader and in that position at the time. Now, you only need one good look, one go in leadership position to be a go during each phase of Ranger School. You just don't really know what leadership position you're gonna get. In Darby, you're either gonna be a squad leader or a team leader. So do your best in that position and hopefully it works out for you. There's a good chance that you're either gonna be looked at for leadership during op orders and initial movement, or actions on objective, all right, which is actually conducting, you know, the last leg of movement and the mission itself, whether it be the raid or the ambush. I would say typically during Ranger School, and this isn't exact, but typically they switch out leadership positions in the middle of the entire day, and that's like after initial movements. You'll move halfway to the objective, they'll stop everybody, they'll switch out leadership, give you a few minutes to hand off all the equipment, and then you'll finish the mission that you initially had, and now you're in leadership position. So no matter, even if you're not in leadership position, you have to have a complete 100% understanding of what the mission is and how it's being conducted, okay? Because you never know when it's going to be your turn to step up and complete that mission as the leader. So my first Darby phase, we didn't conduct patrol bases at all, like period. Every mission, we came back late at night or early morning to refit and recoup. Well, that's what they call it anyway, but you came back to Camp Darby and you would just stand there on the rocks until they said you could go to sleep for like an hour or two, if that. And we never did patrol bases during Darby. I want to say we like had practice setting one up. It's like somebody was in leadership position and they had us set up a patrol base at one point, like in the middle of a mission, just to, you know, make sure we could conduct a patrol base. But we never actually, you know, stayed out on patrols at night and conducted a mission from a patrol base. Not on my first Darby. My second Darby, we did more often than not. And that's what I'm saying, like, I guess it just depends on like the schedule, depends on the weather, depends on a lot of things. Your Darby phase is most likely gonna be a little different than other people's, okay? So just be flexible. Patrol base operations, it's gonna be after you conduct your mission. They're either gonna keep the same leadership or they're gonna switch it out after the mission, after your AAR. And you're going to conduct movement to a patrol base and you're going to set up a patrol base to standard. And then you'll do your patrol base operations. You'll set security, you'll do supply requests, you'll do all those different things. Maybe you'll get attacked, maybe you won't, but you won't get a lot of sleep in a patrol base, I'll tell you that much. I think the most sleep I ever got personally in patrol base or Ranger School during Darby phase was like 30 minutes, and when I got woken up by like an ambush. So don't expect a lot of sleep. Another thing that seems to change depending on the times and when you go to Ranger School is whether or not they tell you on if you got your go or no go after your look as in leadership. For me, I don't remember any time in Ranger School that they ever told us whether or not we got to go after our leadership look. They'll always pull you aside and like as an individual, and your specific grader will kind of give you a personal AAR on how you did and how he graded you, but they typically won't say you are a go at this time or anything like that. They'll just, you can usually tell like if they liked your performance or if they didn't. You know, they're not gonna like hide that. So you can kind of figure it out on your own. But I wanna say this, if you feel like you gotta go, you know, if that's the case for you and they didn't specifically say you gotta go, but it just seems like you gotta go, don't just get like a big head and be like, oh man, I got my go, I'm good to go. No, man, like you're still being looked at. You still have duties to the rest of your team. There's still other guys on your squad that need to get their goes, and you still have to perform appropriately and to standard, okay? So don't ever act like your time is done at Ranger School because you think you got your go. You are constantly on until the day you get your tab, okay? And that's not just for the sake of getting your own passing grade at Ranger School, but it's to make sure that everybody else gets theirs as well. Because again, anybody that's got their tab will tell you this, Ranger School is not an individual event, it's a team event, and you don't get your tab by yourself, you get your tab as a team. So you'll conduct all your patrols. I wanna say it's like a good week of patrolling. You know, every day there's a mission and everybody gets 1 or 2 looks, and hopefully everybody gets their goes. At the last day is when you'll find out if you get a go or no go, and all they'll do is, like, the RI that have been grading you during that time will just bring your squad together, call one at a time over, and they'll just explain to you why you got your go or didn't get your go, and then you'll go back to your group. And that's how it will go. All right, and then that day is devoted to figuring out who's moving on to mountain phase or who's going back to do Darby again. And by the end of the day, if you got a no-go, they'll do a board where you can like repeal, you know, or stand up for yourself why you think you shouldn't have got a no-go. But I don't think it's like possible to actually talk the president of the board into giving you a go if the RI said you no good. All right, but they'll definitely give you a board and kind of explain to you why you didn't get your go, and they'll give you an opportunity to fight for yourself if you think you deserve it. But most likely you don't, and you just no go because you need to fix yourself. And that's that. Everybody will move back to Fort Benning on like a bus, and you'll get your Darby pass, which is like one full, I think it's a Saturday that you get, like one full day of going home and like refitting, being with your family, and just eating as much food as you possibly can. And then you show back to camp, and you better show up back up on time. And you'll move out from there either to mountain phase, or you'll sit and you'll recycle for a week, and you'll start Darby again after rap week. During Darby Pass, I would definitely advise, you know, making a trip to Commandos or something like that and restocking on some supplies that you figured out that you should have had in the first place. Because mountains is a place where you're going to want all the gear, all the nifty gear that you could possibly have that they allow you to take with you. And if you do recycle, take that time to not feel bad for yourself, but take the time to just kind of heal, eat some food. They'll let you eat the chow hall. They don't really bother you. They might give you some more instruction classes, which is good. Take the time to start like honing in on your TLPs that you learned that you can take in to your second time. Build some products like some patrol-based triangles. You'll see what that is when you get there if you don't know what I'm talking about. Refine your Ranger handbook notes, all those things. You'll have plenty of time to do that, but definitely make sure you take the time to do that, okay? And go into Darby phase again, if you do recycle, with a good attitude, and fix whatever your mistakes was, whether it was you didn't get to go patrolling or you got peered or whatever. Just figure out what you need to do, fix it, and get your go this time. And if you're going on to mountains, congratulations, you made it to mountains, but I'll get into mountains on the next video, and I'll tell you what to expect there. Mountains was my favorite phase by far, but also the hardest phase by far, all right? So I'll get another video out to you guys. It goes all about into mountains phase. And be on the lookout for that. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video so that you don't miss that video, and so you don't miss any of my future videos. I get into all things Army. I get into fitness. We talk about other schools like Pathfinder, Air Assault, career enhancement, all that kind of stuff. So make sure you like and subscribe, tell your friends. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my ruck now. Besides that, that's all I got, and I'll see you on the next one.